All right, so today we're going to look at the midpoint formula. If you've grabbed your paper-based packet, the note sheet that we're going to be looking at is on page 3. I'm more than welcome to fill it out as we go along. This could be really helpful to reflect back on examples and formulas when you're completing the assignment. However, if not, I will definitely let you know what you need to scratch down on a piece of paper that you have it handy so that you can complete your assignment. Again, I would really encourage you, though, to come up and get a packet. So in any case, talking about the midpoint formula. So throughout the unit, we've looked at several different topics that are going to be helpful for you today, such as identifying coordinates on points. We've calculated distance between these coordinates. We've looked at the general concept of midpoint and how it can be used to determine equal relationships and find missing values. And we also took a look at earlier this week about reviewing the coordinate plane. So today we're going to look at calculating given the two endpoint coordinates on a one-dimensional figure, a number line, and a two-dimensional figure, the coordinate plane. So, brief review. Midpoint. We're talking about the middle. Okay, the middle. And to find that midpoint, we are going to add the coordinates of the points and then divide by 2. So we're going to add. And then we're going to divide by 2. So again, we're looking at adding the entire distance and then chopping it in half to find the midpoint. All right, so let's take a look at some examples of what I mean. So here's a number line. And if we're going to find the midpoint of HB, again, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to identify the coordinates. H is located at 18. B is located at, now it doesn't necessarily say, but you should be able to realize that it's between 27 and 30 and counting by ones, that B's value or B's coordinate is 28. So from there, we're going to want to add them up. 18 plus 28. That is our first step. And guys, we want to make sure that we hit enter and get an answer first before we divide by 2, because we want to know the entire distance first before we cut it in half. So 18 plus 28 is going to give us 46. And then step 2 is to cut that in half, because that's the whole length. So we're going to divide it in half, and we're going to get a total answer, final answer of 23. Now, I do encourage you just to kind of take a look back at your picture. Does that make any logical sense? And I'll explain why here in a second. But 23, if I just cut this down the middle, again, I was looking at this blue segment from H to B. If I just took a minute and I just casually cut in half, take a look. It's a 23, right? Here's 24, so 1 less is 23. Again, I just got lucky and did it exactly where it is, but this is the location of 23. You just want to make sure, too, that you're somewhere on this blue line, first of all, and that you're semi in the middle, okay? It doesn't have to be, like, spot on as far as, you know, you look and you're, like, counting and double-checking for sure. But as long as it's you can eyeball it up and you're in the right direction, you're in the right kind of range of numbers, then chances are that you did it correctly. And here's what I'm talking about. A lot of times, you've heard me say it in math, I'm like, you can just plug it in your calculator from left to right, right? So let's say that we were just not being thoughtful about what we were doing. We said, all right, she said add them up and divide by 2. So 18 plus 28, and then I'm going to divide by 2. Now, again, most calculators, but not all calculators, will follow the order of operations. So what it would do, guys, is it would do your division first, and then add on 18. So 28 divided by 2 is 14. And then we would add on 8, and you're going to find you're going to get a different answer. We're going to get 18 plus 14 is 32. Okay, and if I just kind of, again, eyeballed it up and said, all right, here's my line segment HB, and 32 somewhere over here. You're not even on your line, right? So you should kind of then, it clears it up. Hey, I made a mistake, whether it was in your adding, whether it was how you put it in the calculator, but it is, again, a quick look to see if you're in the ballpark. So just to kind of mention it to you, you want to add first, get your answer, and then divide by 2, because it will matter. All right, let's take a look at another example here. The example, the midpoint of GA. So if we're looking at G, my coordinate here is 2. I'm looking at A, my coordinate here is 12. So again, adding those two together, 2 plus 12 is going to give me 14. We're going to do that first, get our full answer. Then we're going to cut it in half. We're going to divide by 2, and we're going to get the answer of 7. So again, quick look, here was my line, right? G to A, 7 is right there. Yeah, that's on my line. It looks like it's in the middle. So again, you can kind of just assure yourself that you have the right answer. All right, so let's move on to the next one so we get through all the different types. Or actually, no, we can do another one here. I'm going to move over to the you try section just because my last one's got cut off here. Let's do DH. All right, so here's D. Here is H, pretty close to each other. D's coordinate is 16. Again, it didn't tell me it was 16, but hopefully you can realize that each tick mark is representing one. 15, 16, 17, 18 for H's. So D is 16, H is 18. So we're going to add those up first. And again, the biggest thing you got to remember is that you add them up and get your answer first. And we're going to get the answer of 34. And then after we do that, then we cut it in half. We're going to divide by 2. So when you divide by 2, you get the answer of 17. And again, just kind of taking a little quick, did I do my math right? Oh, 17's right there, looks right in the middle. You could have probably figured it out without even doing it because they were right next to each other, pretty close. 16 and 18, what's in the middle? 17. So again, sometimes it's a good thing to look at your problem, solve it mathematically, but then also look at it logically and see if you can come up with an answer. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to two-dimensional. All right, so two-dimensional, I mean, we have a coordinate plane again. Coordinate plane is a two-dimensional, meaning it's got two values to identify its coordinates or its location. So if I had a coordinate, if I had a point on my line right here, and I was asking for its coordinate, it's got 2, right? I would say maybe 4, 5. Okay, so we've got an X and a Y value, and you should kind of be fresh in your mind from the earlier lesson this week. But again, coordinates have 2 points. So to find the midpoint of segments on a coordinate plane, again, if I'm looking to, here's my one point and here's my other point down here, and I want to find out where it is in the middle, well, we kind of have, in a sense, 2 middles to find. We would have to find the middle of the X's and the middle of the Y's. The good thing is the process is exactly the same as on a number line, only twice. So the formula kind of always makes people a little weary. I'll give you this short and sweet and simple version of it. We would add our X's and divide by 2. Now, sometimes you see these little like subscripts. No big deal. All it's just saying to you is, hey, add the first X value and the second X value together. So we can just write, hey, add X's together, X plus X, and divide by 2. And my answer is going to be the middle of my X's. Now for your Y's, you're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to add the 2 Y values together and divide by 2. And that is going to give me the location of my Y value. So again, your answer, and I wrote it down below, but also over here to reiterate, it needs to be written as an ordered pair, X, comma, Y. All right, so let's take a look at some examples down here. So when we are looking to find the midpoint of a segment with the endpoints, meaning it just ends at these locations, of -1, -2, and -3, -6. Now to find the midpoint, again, we add, get our answer, and divide by 2. So we're going to do that twice, once for the X's and once for the Y value. So here's my X's. Remember, they're the first number in your ordered pair. So I'm going to add those together. I'm just going to do my work down here so you can see it. Oh, I mean, do all that. Okay, so we've got -1, and I'm going to add with it -3. And I'm going to get an answer, because remember, that's really important that we get the answer before we divide it in half. So when we divide by 2, we get -2. Now that's my X value, right? So I want to make sure that I'm setting up my answer here. So the X portion of my answer is -2. Over here is just my dirty work, my scratch work for it. All right, so then kind of moving on, we know that our other number in our order pairs are Y values. And again, we're going to do the same process. We're going to add them up, get an answer first, divide by 2, and then it tells us the midpoint of our Y's, which is -4. And again, Kind of may seem silly to you, but you want to make sure that you are writing your answer in ordered pair. This is your scratch work over here. This is what makes sense to you. But if I was just looking at this, I would really have to make sense of it. And again, I would know what the answer is. I could figure it out because that's what I do, right? But you want to make sure that you're presenting it in the correct format. So if it's asking you where is the middle of this line, you need to make sure that on a two-dimensional plane, you are expressing your answer in a coordinate, in an ordered pair. All right, so one more for practice here. So again, we're looking at the midpoint of segments with the endpoints of, and it gives us two more new ordered pairs. So as far as figuring it out, add them up and divide it twice. So add up our x values, add up our y values. Sorry guys, I lost my pen there. All right, so looking at my x values, where's the middle of my x's? -1 plus 6. 5 divided by 2 is 2.5. Now you might think, oh no, I got a fraction. Guess what? More often than not, if you cut something in half, you're never going to get equal halves. Or you're going to get equal halves, but it's not going to be like right down on an even number. Again, you take anything around your house and you measure it and you cut it in half, I bet you more often than not that you're going to get a fraction or a decimal. Now your problems are mostly set up so you're going to get some integer values, but you're going to get decimals as well too, so no worries. That's completely normal. So x values, 2.5 is the middle of it. Then if I do my y values, I have -2 plus -6, that gives me -8. Divide in half, and I get -4. So again, this is your scratch work. Last but not least, I want you to transform it, take it, and put it into an ordered pair. 2.5 comma -4. Because again, on a coordinate plane, it's lovely x system, you want to make sure that you're expressing your answers the correct way. All right, so that is what your homework is going to be based around. You're going to have problems where you're asked to find the midpoint on a number line. And then you're going to have problems where you're asked to find the midpoint on a two-dimensional, meaning that it's on a coordinate plane. So again, either way, you're following kind of the similar formula. And again, if you had scratch paper, I would definitely write down formulas. You can go back and stop and write them down. But the big picture is that you add them and then divide. But you have to make sure you get your answer to the addition first before you divide. So good luck. Reach out if you need any help. Again, if you need a paper packet, they are in the front vestibule in a purple folder labeled with your name. I think that's the best way to go for this moving forward. But again, the worksheet is available for you online that you just need to write it out on a sheet of paper and submit via video. All right, good luck.